So I want to talk about the difference between counting calories and what I focus on, which I refer to as macro manipulation. And what this is when we think about adjusting macros, is that we are adjusting the amount of the three macronutrients. Now, again, to remind you, I always keep protein as a constant variable. So really that means we have two adjustments to make. And those two adjustments are going to come in the form of carbohydrates and fats. Therefore, a general rule of thumb, if I am eating or if I'm putting on a plan a lower carbohydrate diet, then I'm going to increase that fat intake, and vice versa. If the fats are generally a little bit lower, then I'm going to be on a moderate to higher carbohydrate intake. But a lot of times what will happen is we can make a macro adjustment without actually adjusting calories, because what we are doing is we are focusing on the type of energy that is coming into the body rather than a calorie number. Therefore, just by simply reducing carbohydrates, we are forcing our body to attempt to utilize fat as an energy source. And when this happens, more body fat or more weight loss can occur, regardless of whether or not we reduce calories. Therefore, a lot of times when I work with that client for the first time who has come in at a low calorie state, we do have to go through that reverse diet process. And what a reverse diet is it simply is just an individual who is increasing the food intake initially at the start of a program so that we can work up to what I call a higher metabolic base. And the importance of this is we got to have room to work with. Again, if our body's going to adjust to a total calorie level each time that we lower calories, then we can also do the opposite, and we can increase food slowly over time and work ourselves back up to a higher calorie intake and reestablish that homeostasis spot, which I refer to as a metabolic base. And this is often what we need to do at the start of most programs, as this allows us to increase food intake. Surprisingly, many clients will start losing weight initially. Even after they have hit a plateau on their own, they'll start losing weight again because their metabolism is starting to increase again after they start eating more food. And I find this is one of the hardest things for many individuals to go through when they start out on a weight loss program, is the fear of gaining weight back. Therefore, once they get down to those low calorie intakes, they tend to stay there over time because they have that fear of gaining weight. So it's very difficult for them to want to consciously increase their food intake on their own. And this is where, with what I do, comes into play with helping that individual feel confident in increasing their food intake so that we can slowly start increasing that food back up and getting them to that higher metabolic base. Now, that doesn't mean that counting calories is always bad, but generally with the types of clients I work with where they have already been doing something on their own trying to lose weight, or they are looking more at a body composition goal where they're reducing body fat and trying to maximize their muscle mass, then in these situations, I find that counting calories a lot of times is irrelevant to what we need to do with nutrition. But that being said, for someone who is sedentary, who hasn't been working out or has not really been focusing on weight loss or focusing on their nutrition to lose weight at all, then for that individual, counting calories and simply just moving more and eating less is going to work for them. But even for that individual, I find at some point they're going to need to focus more on the macro content of the food that the approach they are taking in order to continue their weight loss success. And I find that if you do focus more on specific macros as far as the amount of protein, carbohydrates, and fats that you're eating each day, then you actually end up eating a higher calorie total than you would if you were just simply counting calories. Therefore, I do feel like counting calories tends to force people into a lower calorie state overall, which gives them the greater likelihood of reaching that plateau and their weight loss stalling out and not making progress, versus being able to eat more total calories, focusing on the macronutrient intake of those total calories, and being able to sustain weight loss and just their overall motivation to stick to their plan much longer.